What's going on, everybody? We're back for another edition of the Saturday Night Tailgate Show. I've got my two usual suspects, my fellow co-hosts of this show. First of all, Mookie Hawkins. Mookie, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good. It's kind of unseasonably crazy weather here today. Damn near 70 degrees. Good day for some football, even though we can't play it, right?
Oh, yeah. A man who got smashed through a table last week. He's one of the two lead guys over there at Hashtag Sports on their YouTube channel. One of the longest members of the AARP club, my old friend Mario Granada. Mario, how are you doing tonight?
Checks notes. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes, I did get put through a table against every fiber of my being, but when Hashtag Nation comes through, I gotta deliver. I gotta be a man of my word. So it's great to be here with Mookie and you, Clayton, and Turron. I can't wait to get going on Titans Bills.
And last but certainly not least, our special guest this evening. Thank you for giving us your time, the ESPN beat reporter for the Tennessee Titans, Turron Davenport. Turron, how are you doing tonight, man?
Hey, man, every day's a good day, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Now, we all know the situation of what's going on in Tennessee, but I don't really have any questions regarding the players, personnel, and staff. Of course not. But I want to know what it's been like being in your shoes, going through this situation as a Titans beat reporter, given the information or lack thereof, if you will. What has it been like just trying to do your job, going through this, if you will, the COVID outbreak? What has it been like?
I'll tell you, this season has really shown the importance of having sources. That's really what it's been like. And the availability, that person-to-person conversation that you normally can have in the locker room, it's not there. And especially right now, of course, with the outbreak and what they're trying to do to corral it, it's you don't really have as much person-to-person contact. You have to rely on players that you did connect with and text them. And sometimes they don't get back because they're just naturally afraid to say the wrong thing or incriminate the organization. But you do have others that just say they're just going to keep it going. So it's been very, very strange this season, especially in the midst of this outbreak that started on September 24th. But I mean, these are the times, so you got to work through it. And it's interesting because the day starts a little bit earlier now because at 4:30 a.m., that's when the Titans find out whether or not they had a positive or negative test. So you got to get up a lot earlier to know and start working your sources. So it's definitely taxing, and it's pushing you to be a better reporter. And I appreciate that, to be honest.
Okay, cool. But speaking as we know it's tough in the world that you live in now. I mean, just trying to get the story and do your job with all this stuff going on, and knowing that there is an outbreak in that facility. The portion of the players, the players basically, their gripe is, as you already know, they did these workouts before the NFL put their mandate or send a memo out of, guys couldn't practice and things of that nature. So like Tannehill went on to say that, there's some flaws in the system or the testing results. Just care to say, like, what are your thoughts on both issues regarding the team?
Well, yeah, there's some discrepancies as far as the timeline is concerned. On September 29th, the Titans and Vikings facility were shut down. And that was when they had the 8 positive tests, because 5 were team staff and then 3 were players. And apparently the league contacted the Vikings and Titans to let them know that there were to be no in-person activities outside of the building. But the discrepancy is, did that really happen? Because it's not documented, at least not in anything outside of this investigation that was recently wrapped up. The players had a team, not a team, but a group workout, select players, quarterbacks and receivers. They got together and they worked out on September 30th. So there was a clear discrepancy as far as when the Titans were told they couldn't, and if that was related to the players, because players told me they didn't know that this was an unauthorized workout. And then further, the league sent a memo out to all teams on October 1st with that guideline of not having in-person activities outside of the building if you had an outbreak. So the communication was on the 29th. 2 days later, a memo went out. I'm just confused as to how it took 2 days for the memo to be made and distributed. And then in addition to that, Ryan Tannehill, when he spoke on the 30th, the same day they went to work out, he said he was getting his throws in. He said that some guys would have to work out outside of, at gyms or other places, not at home. So that tells me that if he is going to say that on a press conference, that tells me he truthfully didn't know exactly what the protocol was and if that was in place. So there's a bunch of discrepancies. The players now, they're not commenting about it. They're going to let the investigation go ahead, the results be released, and they'll comment after that. But they still feel that they didn't do anything wrong. Every player and coach was available to the NFL and NFL PA for investigation and interviews, etc. And they were fully transparent. So we'll see how this thing pans out. But I think really Kevin Byard said it best. You have to remember, it's a pandemic, and the protocols and the things in place, they're not foolproof. There is no way to foolproof yourself from this virus. Every single person on this planet is susceptible to it. So some are going to get it, some aren't. And I mean, that's just really how it is.
Yeah, that's just amazing. And I don't think that the players would go against the grain that way. Just disregard what the NFL has to say and have a practice out in public knowing that they ain't supposed to. So you're right. It got to be some sort of discrepancy of miscommunication, in reference to trying to discipline them in reference to that. You know what I mean? Especially if your franchise quarterback is saying this on, you know, in the video conference, you know. So yeah, I think they need to take some slack off with the players. The players is trying to stay in shape as much as it is with no OTAs or preseason, man. People don't understand how really difficult that is to really like get going. You know what I mean? So I understand the players with that. I'm a rock with the players on that note, and you know, I just hope that those guys can stay safe at this point in time. You know.
But I won't say that was a wise decision. You know, I won't say that them gathering in the midst of an outbreak within their facility. I won't say that was a wise decision. I get it, but I don't think it was the most intelligent decision. But that's just how players are wired. Every player, I mean, you look at it, playing football growing up, and you know, myself through high school and college, you were taught to, okay, if there's an obstacle, this is what we're going to do with it. We're going to go right through it. We're not going to go around the obstacle. We're going to go right through it. And despite whatever the obstacle is, we're going to get to the point that we have to get to. And this is an example. So it's just players doing what they are conditioned to do. I mean, Tom Brady did it, you know, when outbreak, when the pandemic itself was there in the summer, you know, and in the spring. And it was looked at as, oh, man, this is great. This is what the Bucs needed. And, you know, so it's just it's
double standard. Hey, the Bills did it in Miami too, and they did it in Virginia. So, you know, I mean, how can you tell them not to do it after teams have, you know, pretty much done it? You know what I mean, during the pandemic. So, you know, it's a new norm. It's hard to decipher, and you know, everybody got to be on one on the same page in order for this thing to truthfully go away. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, it's
interesting to see too, because the Buffalo Bills, not the Buffalo Bills, but the NFL kind of had a blueprint in front of them for a very short period. And to Turron's point, the fact that you've never dealt with something like this, and it seems like a lot of the players trying to get together, trying to do things, it seemed like a ask for forgiveness rather than permission type of deal. And you know, and I'm really confused about why does it take 2 days for a memo? You know what I mean? I don't understand that. But the two blueprints that were laid before the NFL were the NBA and the NHL, and we saw how certain cases were dealt with in the NBA and in the NHL. The NHL was pretty much locked down in a bubble, and then the NBA, they tried to do certain things where they gave the players freedom and certain things that they were going to do there. And I just think that this is a precedent that goes on, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it went on during a bye week. So going forward, I hope they have better mandates in place. But, you know, like you said, like both of you guys said before, these are athletes. They're conditioned to go through things. They're conditioned to be competitive and try to get any kind of competitive advantage. So going forward, I'm interested to see what the terms would be by the NFL to the teams during their bye weeks.
That's a good one. That's definitely a good one. They got a couple buys coming up. Or some.
Yeah, I wonder what Green Bay and Detroit are doing right now. Like you hear all this stuff going on. I don't hear any news coming out of Green Bay and Detroit. So It's interesting to see what will the NFL put in place for bye weeks, because you know, a lot of times on the bye weeks, these players, okay, you get 2 days off, 3 days off, you get it, and then you come back for workouts and all that other stuff. But what is the NFL going to do to try to we salvage a season? I mean, we're fans. We want to watch our teams play, you know, and that's minuscule to the point of, are these guys going to stay healthy? Are they going to adhere to the guidelines that are set forth by the NFL? So I don't know. It's so tough because none of us have been in this situation before.
They did make a slight adjustment in that during bye weeks, players aren't allowed to leave their city. And in that bye week, every day, you still have that mandatory testing. If you have an unauthorized miss of a test one day, it's $50K. You do it again, it's going to cost you a game check. And then it just keeps increasing, you know, another game check, another game check, another game check. And then also, if you miss a test, now we're not talking about the Titans or the Patriots or Chiefs, Raiders, etc., teams that have had people test positive in clusters. I'm just talking about in general. If let's say the Bills have the bye week next week. And by the way, from what I understand, the Bills have done a phenomenal job. I talked to Marcel Louis-Jacques. He told me some of the things. They're doing a phenomenal job. So they obviously haven't had any positive tests. But let's say they do have the bye week next week, and let's say player X misses a test. he has to then submit multiple POC and PR speed tests in order to be able to re-enter the building. In other words, he's subject to the same rules that the Titans were subject to before they were able to get back in the building, which is a bit elevated as far as the standards are concerned. So they are trying to make some adjustments to keep the players righteous during the bye week. And I think the players are going to do the right thing. They understand, not to travel and still continue to get tested. So I would be surprised if anybody gets fined during the bye week, but you never know.
Somebody gonna still try it, man. That's the crazy part about it. Somebody's gonna try to just beat the shield, and the next it's just a story waiting to happen, man. But like I said, I hope people take this and really see how serious this pandemic it really is, because right now, it's touching everybody. You got Chicago Bear practice squad player. You got Kansas City strength and conditioning coach. We got the issue going on right now in Tennessee, Kansas City Raiders. It's happening, So in order to get a grip, I still would say shut the league down for 2 weeks. Mandatory quarantine. Just shut it down for 2 weeks and, pick back up. That's what I mean. That's the only way. Until any bubbles become available for, 53 teams times the 53 players times 30. I don't know if a bubble big enough.
That's just gonna be tough for them to do that, though.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I agree with you. I don't know how they could do the bubble because you still have travel. Like the Bills, for instance, are traveling here to Nashville. So are you going to quarantine and put the flight attendants in the bubble, the pilots in the bubble? Right. Are the people here that are going to be at the hotel that they'll be staying at going to be in a bubble? The people who are serving the food, are they going to be in the bubble? And that's the thing. This bubble idea sounds good. It really does sound good, but I don't know that it's absolutely feasible. So it's just tough. And then shutting down, I think if they have another outbreak, they're going to need to shut down. But for the most part, outside of this Tennessee situation, they've done a pretty solid job of keeping everything corralled. You're going to have positive tests. The objective is when you have one, keep it from going to A, B, C, all the way to K, so to speak. And that's what has to happen. And that's what didn't happen here in Nashville.
Yeah, the Bills is like Fort Knox. They is not letting you even pull up to the driveway.
Well, you look at it too, Mookie, like what that suggestion is, you look at there's 16 possible games that are played. Now that the bye weeks are coming in, there's less, but you understand that it's not like hockey or basketball where, all right, a team leaves the court, team can come on the court next, you just wipe it down, do whatever you got to do. And then, in hockey, a Zamboni comes around, you know what I mean? It's like, how are you going to try to mandate in order to try to restrict the NFL to maybe 2 or 3 cities that they play their games in 2 or 3 cities? The season will end in 2022, with all the games that have to be played. And it's just tough with like you said, with the number of players compared to like an NFL or an NBA or an NHL roster, it's immense, and with all the staff and everything that goes on with it. So I just think that they had a tough road coming into the season to try to keep this down. And to your point, as far as the shut the league down for 2 weeks, I could just see on that 13th day somebody test positive on a team, and then everything has to go back again. So it's tough to kind of hit the reset button like that. Plus, the NFL is a money-making business, so they don't want to cancel any games. They want all the games to go on as planned, even though they're not filling the seats with each team is not filling the seats with revenue. They're getting the TV contracts and whatnot. So it's a really, back to Turron's point at the onset, no one's ever been in this situation before. How are you supposed to handle it?
Yep.
Right. Now, I've had enough talking about this virus. I'm sure Turron has as well. I'm sure Turron, of anybody on this screen, has had enough talking about this. Now, Turron, looking at what the Titans have done thus far this season through their first 3 games, they are 3-0. They do have a perfect record, and they were the runners-up in the conference last season. So they did have some expectation going into this season. Now, that 3-0 record also comes against teams who have a combined record of 3-9, and they have yet to win any of those. They've won all of those games within 3 points. Now, with that being said, I'm curious to know what your feelings are regarding the 2020 Tennessee Titans.
Well, here's the thing: they're 3-0, and yeah, the record combined of those teams isn't exactly the best. But you look at the Jaguars, they beat the Colts, who have one of the best defenses in the league. So, end of the day, you can only knock down who's lined up in front of you. I think this team, when you look at them, they are operating very well on the offensive side of things. And that's without getting as many explosive plays as they typically have been able to get, mainly from Derrick Henry. Once he really gets going as far as the explosive side of things, that's going to make them all the better. But they still have that play action to work on. I think Ryan Tannehill is playing outstanding football. He's spreading it around. He's very accurate. He's very confident. And that's something that Josh Allen, we can get into him a bit at some point also. You see him just playing with, it's almost arrogance that he's playing with. And you look at a lot of the tight window throws that he's making, he probably shouldn't make that throw. But he feels in his mind that he could rifle the ball in there, and it ends up being successful. So the team is playing well offensively. Stephen Gostkowski is he's a redemption story after missing 5 kicks in the season opener. This guy has gone on a tear, 4 for 4 on 50 yards out. He 55-yarder for the game winner against the Vikings. In 3 weeks in a row, he had game winners. The problem with this team is the defense, and they've given up over 400 yards of total offense in back-to-back games. You can't do that and expect to win. They've been able to win despite that, and specifically the issue is the rushing attack. They're giving up too much. They're not walling. I asked Mike Brady just flat out, okay, what is going on with the run defense, because it's not looking too good. And he said specifically, they're not setting the edge, they're not walling, and they're not rallying to the football, swarming to the football. And you see that if you go back and look at the Jaguars game, look at the Vikings game. There are explosive runs where there's a seam up front, running back pops through, and the linebackers or whoever it may be, the safeties, they're not swarming to the football, or the guy will break one tackle, and he's gone. And you can't have that. Running the football, when a team is able to do that against you effectively, it changes a lot, and it deflates a defense. And this team has given up 30 points in each of the last 2 games. You can't do that. And they have to really keep from doing that against the Bills if they want to have a chance to beat Buffalo.
Right. Now, going into that, let's play this little if game. The Bills win if.
The Bills win if Josh Allen can continue to push the football down the field, and they can continue to maximize the crossing routes that they use. If you look, a lot of their big plays, the majority of them, in fact, are coming off of crossing routes. And one of them has Stephon Diggs on it. The other one is it could be anywhere from John Brown, number 13, the rookie, I forget his name, but he scored against the Raiders on a crosser, as a matter of fact. So I think if they could execute that against zone defense, the Titans are going to have to play more zone. They're typically a man team, balanced, but 52% of the time they're a man. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that with the amount of guys that they have on COVID reserve. Christian Fulton may be able to come back. We'll see. It depends on symptomatic versus asymptomatic. But then you also have Jonathan Ghost, who's banged up. Dory Jackson's on IR. They don't have the horses to go man-to-man with the Bills receivers. So they're going to have to effectively play zone. And when you play zone, a guy like Cole Beasley, his effectiveness is elevated even more because that guy is really, really good at finding windows, and especially over top of those crossing routes. I saw different things that they were able to do without him running the crosser, but with Stephon Diggs and Brown running the crosser. And he just settles in that window after those guys clear things out. So there's a lot going on. Brian Davenport man, that guy is drawing up some plays. And I actually really enjoyed watching the 3 Bills games that I watched this past week as I got ready for my whiteboard segment that I do.
Absolutely. And we got to press that whiteboard segment now.
Clayton. How dare you ask this man about the teams that the Titans have played when last year in 2019, as Buffalo Bills fans, we had to try to defend the Bills going 3-0, 4-0 against teams that were subpar competition. They still won. They manned up against I'm just saying.
Hey, he passed the buck, man.
It's interesting. But that's the thing about the Titans too. That was interesting that you mentioned is that okay, their defense isn't playing where they're supposed to be playing. And I understand a lot of defenses really aren't playing where they're supposed to be playing, where they're used to playing. Bills fans know this very well. But if you think about the fact that the Titans, even though they're giving up 30 points in the last 2 games, they won those games, and the Bills have been averaging 30 points a game and have been winning those games. So all things considered, if all the players were, there weren't players that were not going to be playing in this game, I think this would be a very competitive matchup on paper. And even, with everyone considered, I thought there was going to be more of maybe a divisional round matchup that we could have saw down the line, because they are giving up 30 points, but they're still able to overcome that. So how would the Bills counteract that? And it's interesting because I want to kick it right over to Clayton after this, because you mentioned a name that Mr. Clayton he has varying opinions on in Brian Dable's play calling. So I'm interested to see how he tries to mix it up against a team that, like you said, they're struggling defensively.
Yeah. I mean he's drawing stuff up really well. So I'm not sure about before. I think a lot of that is the quarterback, but there's execution and play calling going on. It's impressive.
Now, Turron, we went a little bit over time with you, but ton of insight, ton of talk about going into this game, man. I really appreciate you giving us your time here on a Saturday evening. I know it's not the night before the game, but we still appreciate your time. Now, before we get you out of here, I want to know if you have, do you do predictions, or is that something you're saving for a later date?
I do predictions. Marcel and I, we have a joint post with the other 30 NFL Nation reporters. So you can check it out on there. But I will tell you, I did not pick the Titans in this game. That was before finding out that Matt Milano's not playing. He is low-key a really good player. As you could tell, I watch a lot of Bills. So, I know this team, and I know not having a guy like him is going to be tough, and especially as Jermaine Edmonds is trying to work his way back. But more importantly, Trey White. If he doesn't play, that's going to be very interesting with Levi Wallace already out. Josh Norman, he's not a man guy, so they're going to have to go zone more. But long story short, I gave a prediction. I did pick the Bills. You want to see the score, you got to go to ESPN. It's
all right.
But this one right here, though, TD. Now, the Titans win if.
The Titans win if they could run the ball effectively and play action pass off of that. And that's a big thing for them. And ironically, the play action pass, the big plays that they get off of that, they don't typically go, at least this year, it hasn't gone to Corey Davis. It hasn't gone to Adam Humphries, both of which will be out. So a guy like Khalif Raymond could be very effective like he was against the Vikings, 3 receptions for $118, and he set up a couple of their touchdowns. So I think if they could shorten this game by running the football and playing their style, or just keep hammering with Derrick Henry and then go for the deep gash on play action, I think they can win this game. But most importantly, they have to jump out early against this Bills team, so that way they can get that good start and balance things out a bit.
Hey, that's letting you know, man, that this offense is high-powered, man. The TD saying they got to get out and start to jump, because this Bills offense is definitely high-powered this year, man. I don't think they're letting their foot off the gas anytime soon with how confident Josh Allen is. But there you have it, man. We got Turron Davenport, one of the best that ever did it, man. Right here on the Saturday Night Tailgate, Clay.
Oh, yeah. Turron, thank you for your time this evening. As I said, where can the people find you and all of your work?
Yeah, for sure. You can find me on social at @TDavenport_NFL. That's my Twitter handle. And I mentioned Whiteboard Wednesdays. That's something that you can see. It's on ESPN.com. You go to NFL and then the Titans page. Every week I get on the whiteboard. I draw up some things. You guys will really like what I did with Brian Dable. I caught you guys mentioning it correctly. My apologies, mispronouncing it. Brian Dable with his offense. I did some up with that. Then also, obviously, ESPN.com, the Titans page. I have a show on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, everything. It's called Talking with TD. That's a podcast. It give you good previews. I have Marcel Louis Jock on. And then I have a live show on Friday nights with Nate Washington, former Titans and Steelers, as well as Texans receiver we talk shop. I had Lorenzo Neal on, so a little flashback to the Music City Miracle. No offense to any of the Bills fans out there, but he was the guest. But you can find all that on all the major podcast platforms. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks a lot, TD, man. Appreciate you big time, man.
Thank you. Now,
go check out that whiteboard Wednesdays. That's gonna be interesting.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see that, man. Draw that whiteboard up, X's and O's. I'm an X and O kind of guy. You know what I mean? X's and O's.
I mean,
X's and O's, X's and Mario.
Why you got the knife? Do you have ranch with that knife to cut up your chicken wings?
X's and Mario.
You didn't think I was going to come ill-equipped without the whiteboard.
You brought the whiteboard out tonight. You can bat in the night.
You want some X's and O's? I'll give you some X's and O's, man. Put them in your cereal. Here we go.
Oh my God!
All right, where am I doing these wings with ranch at?
Where you could do them, you could do them on next week's tailgate if you like. That's fine with me.
For those that don't know, there was a bet last week that didn't go in Mookie's favor. The Raiders scored over 20 points, so now Mookie Hawkins himself has to eat chicken wings with ranch live on air. He came a little unprepared today because he's not used to losing, so he didn't remember that he lost that bet. But hey, I expect you to have your chicken wings with ranch next week, Mookie.
We can go a double or nothing tonight, Mookie. That's fine.
A bet's a bet.
You want to take the Titans to win this game? That's fine. I'll do that if you want to.
Oh my God.
That's okay. That's
no. A bet's a bet. What kind of ranch dressing, man? What kind of
My
ranch?
kids tell me that cucumber ranch is very good.
What in the world? Why do you let them eat that, Mario?
Because they're not eating vegetables otherwise, Clayton.
That's child abuse.
You'll figure that out in 20 years when you have kids.
He's tricking them right now. Cucumber ranch. So you get the veggie in the ranch. So okay,
there you go. We go. Backbone comes in on YouTube, says Hidden Valley Mookie.
Like that.
Valley Mookie.
Hidden Valley Mookie. That's what we're gonna call you.
I was about to say that. What is that? Hidden Valley Ranch? Okay.
You said this. You asked the questions too, Mookie. I love the questions you were asking, TD, and you're saying that the Buffalo Bills win if the Tennessee Titans win if. What is a scenario for you? You're in the Titans camp. You have all this stuff going up against you. What is something that maybe you can also reiterate what TD said about how the Titans are going to beat them. But what possibly could you do to slow down this juggernaut of an offense in Buffalo? If you are the defensive coordinator, what would you do?
Well, you just got to take a script out of the mind playbook. What he did to the Bills in Super Bowl 25. That's pretty much been the recipe, since then on how to shut down high-powered offenses. And then on the flip side, you got a sound run game in Derrick Henry. This guy, he can just eat 3-4 yards of crack, keep that high-powered offense off the field, and before you know it, it's game time. You know what I mean? So, what to do with a high-powered offense? I mean, you got to confuse it. You got to send blitz packages from everywhere. You got to match up, and you got to send heat. You got to match up, and you got to send heat. Now, one thing that I can say that the Rams did, they only came with 3-man pressure and dropped 8. That's how they were able to get back in the game. When the Bills played the Rams, that's how they were able to get back in the game, because you could rush 3 guys as long as you got a guy named Aaron Donald on your team. So, those 3 guys created enough pressure that, kind of, frustrated Josh at some point in that game. But Josh was able to shake that off and put together that last drive at the end. So, I mean, if the Tennessee can duplicate anything from what, the Rams were able to do in that second half and try to emulate that, then they may have a chance, because they do have probably one of the best running games in the NFL right now. Derrick Henry, he led the NFL in rushing last year. So, they got some important ingredients to make it happen. But, I don't think it's possible. But You know, it can happen. It can happen.
Yeah, I take a little bit of a different slant to this game, and I know a lot of Buffalo Bills fans are already marking up the Buffalo Bills as 5-0, and I understand that. You know, it's kind of hard with the way that this team has been playing to not get a little cocky in that respect. But I look at it from this point. Number one, you've already played Miami. You lost the lead to Miami, and then had to come back in that game. Coached by Brian Flores, who is a descendant of Bill Belichick. Now you have another descendant of Belichick that you have to play against. And I've always been a big proponent of you got to take care of your division first. And until somebody knocks the Patriots off of the pedestal, they're still the kings of the East. And they're not playing like the kings of the East. I understand that, but that's always been my mindset. I may be wrong, and I understand that. But you give enough tape to Bill Belichick, and I don't care who he has on his defense, it's going to be tough sledding to try to take down New England. I know we're not talking about New England now, but what I'm saying is this is what I'm looking at going into the game. You've already played Brian Flores. You're going to be playing a Mike Vrabel-led team. So you're going to see a lot of similar things that happen. So when the Buffalo Bills end up eventually playing the Patriots, you can probably refer back to these two games. And like Mookie said, you can go back to the Rams game to see when they were dropping 8 and they were saying, okay, you know what? But the thing that the Titans do not have that the Rams had is Aaron Donald messing everything up in the middle with them 8 that were dropping back. So I'm really interested to see how this ends up playing out and how the Bills end up trying to counteract that. But I do agree with you 110%, Mookie, that Tennessee's going to try to severely shorten this game. They're going to try to make this game just completely eat the clock and do a bunch of different things, trying to get the ball on the ground. I mean, they may snap the ball with 5 seconds left on the play clock every time they have the ball. Who knows? So, especially being undermanned the way they are. So, we hear the news about Milano and possibly White. So it's not a gimme. This is not a walkthrough. Like, I hope Bills fans aren't thinking that it's a walkthrough.
No, they're not 3-0 for nothing. I mean, they do have a mobile quarterback. They do have one of the top running backs in the game. They do have, a rising tight end in Jonnu Smith. So, I mean, those are 3 guys right then and there that can cause problems for you if, it all boils down to who won in the battle up front to make it all work. In them trenches.
Oh, I'm sorry. I fell asleep there at the mic. I am so sorry. I was reading the chat. Somebody's picking on Mario. I gotta defend him.
Am I completely wrong in that? And thinking that the 2 descendants of Belichick are going to be similar type defenses that the Bills are going to play against the Patriots?
What would give you that inclination? Whatever. How dare you? How dare you spew that garbage on this show?
I'm sorry. I just know that Bill Belichick teaches everything that you know. He doesn't teach you everything he knows, which is why he's always been able to be the king of the mountain while everyone else left.
Exactly. That's what people forget. Now, really the way I view this game, it's interesting to me that the Titans have been as bad against the run as they have been. Okay. All right. Well, then leave the show. I don't know what to tell you, dude. Here. Boop. Okay. So the thing is with the Titans is I am unsure as to why their defense and their front 7 has played as poorly as they have. I'm not sure as to how or why they have, because you look at the guys they have a part of this front 7. It's a really good front 7. You talk about players like Harold Landry, Jadeveon Clowney, Rashawn Evans, Jayon Brown in the middle. Then you had Jeffrey Simmons, who in my mind is one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. Daquan Jones, who will probably miss this game due to being on the COVID list. But their front 7's largely intact. There is no reason to me as to why this defense is letting up 166 yards on the ground per game going into this game. It's just confusing to me. But then you look at their secondary and how beaten up they are, and how Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro kind of really dropped off after a stellar 2019 campaign. Those 2 players, they haven't lived up, and Kevin Byard hasn't lived up to that contract. And neither of them lived up to the expectation that people had for them after a solid end of the season last year. So there are definitely a lot of question marks on the Titans defense. This is a team that has historically had a solid defense. The last 3 years we see the Bills play the Titans. We've seen these 13-10 matchups, all these games with a bunch of field goals that nobody really even remembers aside from the last 2 possessions. So to see this Titans defense giving up the points they are, giving up the yards they are, it's very, very similar to what we've seen with the Bills defense thus far. And I'm curious to see if this is a long-term thing for the Titans, or if it's a long-term things for the Bills on that side of the ball. And that's where I get into my largest key for this game is they need to continue the performance that they had at the second half of the Raiders game last week, where those interior defensive linemen played out of their mind. It was obvious after that first half that front four was just not generating enough pressure, just sending your force. So they had to manufacture pressure. They had to fabricate pressure by sending extra linebackers, sending extra guys to get other players halfway decent looks. Now, is that going to be the plan against Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry? I sure hope so. But Derrick Henry, teams haven't necessarily been required to stack the box to stop Derrick Henry this year. So going into this game, I don't feel like we're playing the same Derrick Henry that ran through the entire conference during the AFC playoffs last year. I don't feel like we're playing that same guy. He hasn't looked like the same back. Zero runs for 20 yards a month or 3 weeks into the season for him. He just doesn't strike me as the same player, and I feel like this is another opportunity for the Bills to prove, or not another, but it is an opportunity for the Bills to prove that Josh Jacobs' 3.1 yards per carry last week wasn't a fluke performance by this Bills defensive front.
Yeah, the biggest thing about that is just no continuity. When you rack off all those names you just mentioned, I mean, they got Vic Beasley on that squad too. When you put it all on paper, it definitely looks good. It definitely looked like that defense can shut down anything, on paper. But continuity-wise, it's not good. That's where you see you thought the Bills had some gap integrity issues. Tennessee got some serious gap integrity issues. They 29th in the league at 166 a clip. They giving up 166 yards on the ground with those guys that you just mentioned, Jadeveon Clowney, Jeffrey Simmons, Harold Landry. It's just like, and then you got Rashad Evans and Jerron Smith, as linebackers, two dynamic linebackers as well. So it makes you wonder, why is they just getting ran up and down, so early. But it's all about gap integrity. And, you miss a guy like Jarrell Casey, who they traded, who was an all-pro for them. You're really missing that guy. People fail to realize that. It's just like how, as much as you don't want to say it, Bills missed out Lutulele, because he was responsible as a gap eater. He demanded a double team. And, he was making some plays, too, now. He was out there making some plays, getting interceptions, pushing the pocket. And, that's big. We haven't, you missed that continuity. So I think it's more than continuity issues, more than anything. Good thing that the Bills is playing in Tennessee this early in the season, because, once the season really start turning into week 8, and then down the line, you're going to start seeing teams getting rhythm, teams getting chemistry. You just got to hope that right now teams just keep winning for the most part in the beginning stages.
Yeah, you got to think about this, and I just pulled it up really quick to just take a look at it. You had Taylor Lewan, Roger Saffold, Ben Jones, Nate Davis, and Jack Conklin last year were the 5 guys that were mainly responsible for Henry's success in there. Now, you have 4 out of the 5 back. You have 4 out of the 5 back. The only guy that's not there is Conklin. So what is it? It's not that they have, they've had such a turnover on their offensive line, why he's struggling there. So why is he struggling so much now this year, even though he's been running the ball quite a bit? Could Conklin have made that much of a difference on that line for that team? It's especially playing against 3 teams that are, as Clayton said at the onset, they're 3-9 combined right now, and they've only beat those teams by a combined 6 points total. So
what have they been doing? It's been no OTAs, it's been no preseason. So what have you been doing? And what was you doing to stay in shape? Like, all that stuff play a factor. It's going to show. All this stuff is going to show why my defense is horrible when they were the best last year. This is really answering those questions with no OTAs, no preseason. These guys are basically playing themselves into shape. So, hopefully you better off being 4-0 than 0-4.
Here's the way I see it, really, is you're talking about a team that started Ryan Tannehill midway through last season and gave that team a spark. And you look at the surrounding cast that they had there for that, whoever the quarterback was, whether it was Marcus Mariota or whether it was Ryan Tannehill. You're talking about Corey Davis, who was a 6th overall pick. A.J. Brown, who was probably the best wide receiver to come out of that draft class last year that isn't DK Metcalf. And then you have Tajay Sharp, Adam Humphries, Jonnu Smith, Deion Lewis, Derrick Henry, as we've been talking about. Tell me and find me a quarterback that is average to mediocre that would not thrive in that situation. Find me one, please. Because the only thing that was stopping the Titans from being what they were towards the end of 2019 was Marcus Mariota pissing down his leg drive after drive and incapable of getting the ball in the end zone. That's really all it was. And now Ryan Tannehill comes in there and does a good enough job for the first time in his career, Adam Gase or not, for the first time in Ryan Tannehill's career, he comes in there in one of the most ideal situations in terms of supporting cast in the NFL, and he does a good enough job. I think point blank period, what happened with the 2019 Titans is they're a fluke football team. Honestly, you're talking about a team that their success was largely dependent upon a one-dimensional running back having success between the tackles. And that's what he is. That's what Derrick Henry is a one-dimensional running back who I think now we're starting to see all those carries take a toll on him. We're starting to see Derrick Henry slow down. We're starting to see Derrick Henry not be the same player he was when they went on that AFC Championship run. And Ryan Tannehill, don't talk to me about Ryan Tannehill. Please, do not talk to me about Ryan Tannehill. This guy, he was a bust for a reason. He got paid to be good enough, and he is the Titans' Tyrod Taylor right now. That is all he is, really. I don't see anything with this football team. Yes, they have a very talented defense, but they dropped off after last year as well. So what are they now? What are we to think of them now? Because they certainly didn't pick up where they were last year. So I quite frankly don't think it's a good football team. I like the dogs they have on defense, but that offense is fluky. All they have of the names that I mentioned going into this game is maybe A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Jonnu Smith. Give me the Bills by 50. This team is a joke. With the players that they're missing, this team is an utter joke. The Bills should not be playing in a contest with this team, and it should be the widest margin of victory that we've seen from the Bills in 5 years.
Jeez, you are shooting right now, man.
Shoot. Give me the lighter. Give me the lighter. Breathe.
I like Mookie. On a side note, don't you love when Clayton's fired up like this?
Yeah, he ain't sleep no more. He just went in right now.
Do you remember that youthful energy that we used to have? I don't know if I have it anymore. But here's the great thing about Clayton's rant. There's nothing wrong. This guy, Derrick Henry, he had 750 carries at Alabama. He comes in the NFL. He just completely runs over. But the Titans line before the season last year, before 2019, I touted their line as amazing, and I knew it was going to do something amazing. You talk about Taylor Lewan, Roger Saffold, and they had Jack Conklin, and then they had a couple other guys in the middle there. Point being is that they had some continuity on that line, and they were able to make a run. They were able to have some opportunistic wins. Ryan Tannehill did give them a spark. I think Ryan Tannehill was good enough. He didn't lose you. He didn't win you any games, but he didn't lose you any either. They played a very, very simple brand of football, and that's not a sustainable model, I believe, in today's NFL. They're outscoring bad teams. They have guys that aren't going to be playing, but I don't know if going to the extent of calling Ryan Tannehill Tyrod Taylor. I don't know about that. I mean, I would take Taylor.
He's not as good as Tyrod Taylor.
I would take Taylor over Tannehill.
So would I.
Okay.
You want to talk about game managers, and Ryan Tannehill is as game managing as it gets, folks.
Oh, stop with the game manager. I hate that. The greatest game manager of all time was Tom Brady. So don't even get me started on that.
Ooh.
Don't even get me started on Tom Brady. Good
His
Lord.
numbers isn't bad though. You look at Tannehill's numbers. There isn't bad. Like he's not having a bad season. You know what I mean? So, I mean, to me, he's still a wild card because he can extend plays with his legs and he can get first downs with his legs. So, those are some of the concerns that I have going into this game. I mean, we're going to miss the fact that, the Bills do struggle against tight ends. We're not going to have Matt Milano out there. Is that going to be Tremaine's job now? Basically, Jonnu Smith is their number one target right now with AJ Brown with the knee injury. We don't know, how many targets he's going to be with that. And then, other guys that, TD mentioned, but Jonnu Smith is, they're going to be their primary target out there on Sunday. And the Bills have struggled against tight ends. You know what I mean? So it's a copycat league.
Well, yeah, they have struggled. And Mookie, I want to ask you this too. Going into it as far as the defensive philosophy for the Buffalo Bills, if you do not have Milano, and God forbid you don't have White, more than likely you're going to be starting Josh Norman and Ciaran Neal as your corners. What that means is that you're more than likely – the one thing that Trey allows you the ability to is to play man and blitz and bring pressure if you want. Run blitz, pass blitz, whatever the heck you want to call it. You can do a bunch of those things that way. The fact that if they happen to go into – I'm saying if. These are ifs. If they happen to go into the game with Ciaran Neal and Josh Norman as the two corners of this game, they're going to be playing a lot more zone than they usually do. Number one, that gives Smith a green light to try to find spots in empty spaces. That gives A.J. Brown, who knows what he's going to end up doing in this game, but you want to put Norman on him. I don't think that's a really good idea. So if you think of it from that aspect, the run game for Tennessee would falter, but their pass game would be more improved than it usually is. Now, would you agree with that assessment, the fact that because the Bills aren't able to blitz as much, not having Trey White, let's say if they don't have Trey White, they have Milano, not being able to blitz as much, you think that Tannehill could be in for a larger game than he usually is because they're going to be playing more zone?
I think the Bills do a good job on game planning with mobile quarterbacks. You look at how when, Cam Newton came here a couple of years, they're probably one of the most dynamic dual quarterbacks, at that point in time in his career. The Bills had like a career day, in sacks. So like 8 sacks, we still ended up losing the game, but they got after Cam. With the zone situation, I think the Bills still know how to be aggressive and playing zone. Leslie Frazier has seen just about any type of offense you can pretty much witness, coached against it, played against it. They can go anywhere between quarters coverage or, bracket coverage in some areas. They definitely have to pick their poison, and Tannehill is going to have to guess right when they are in man coverage or whoever's singled up. That's going to be his job to figure that out. But I think the Bills do carry over what they left off in LA. I think that D-line definitely got some rhythm going. Hopefully, they can bring a little bit more of that juice going into this game up front, because I don't think Tyler Lewan, is he still questionable? I think Tyler Lewan is questionable too as well. So, Isaiah Wilson, he just got activated off the list. So there's another, young stud lineman for Tennessee that probably be available tomorrow. But with the experience that we have on our defensive line, I think that, the defensive line should have, another solid performance on Sunday, But I can say this: Tennessee is going to probably you might see 60% 21 personnel out there just to keep AJ Klein out there. When teams are in that sense, they're going to AJ Klein is that third linebacker, but with Milano being out, do you see Klein and Dotson out there? It's going to be that's going to be my next question. When Tennessee goes to 21 personnel, who are those 3 linebackers? And that's going to let me know a lot, because they tried to do that last week a little bit just to pick on AJ Klein a little bit, with Josh Jacobs being a receiving running back. They try to pick on him, and teams are going to try to emulate that. And Tennessee definitely has a lot of plays in 21 personnel. So it's going to be real intriguing to see how the Bills match up with that.
Guys. Mario stressing me out. Mookie's stressing me out. I don't want to talk about AJ Klein. I'm being optimistic. Well, Mario said in the chat that he's probably going to start over Dotson, and that I want to bet
start. He'll get the start. I'm not saying he's going to play the whole game.
I don't want a snap. I don't want a single snap from AJ Klein on defense.
Settle down, Trent Murphy. I didn't say anything.
You got to get Clay.
My
God.
God.
No, I was kidding.
To answer Mookie's question, though, does Klein get the start? I think he probably does get the start. But the 21 personnel, 2 things you have to realize. Number one, the Buffalo Bills are the Tennessee Titans fullback. I don't think he's back. I think he tested positive. So I don't think they're not going to have their starting fullback if they want to go 21 personnel. You want to go 21 personnel, fine. You're not going to have your starting fullback to lead block for Henry. That's number one. Number two, the Bills have been very efficient in nickel defenses at stopping the run. They have a 4-man front. If you want to put a nickel defense. And Turron Johnson is not shy about sticking his face into the B gap, which he has done quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
He does not care. So if you want to run a nickel defense, or the Buffalo nickel, as they like to call it, a different type of defense, that not being withstanding, if you want to run that type of deal, I think it's only a matter of time before you have Edmonds and Dodson out there in the nickel, and you got Turron out there. And I think we see a heavy dose both of Ciaran Neal and Dean Marlowe just to try to combat that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not at the practices. I don't know what they're doing, but that's from the pecking order that's been going on with McDermott and Frazier and what they've been doing with this defense. If they want to go nickel, I think that's probably what I would do. That's what I would do. Let's put that.
Now, in regards to AJ Klein, I understand that little interaction right there may have seemed a bit hyperbolic, but in terms as to what Mookie was talking about, them running 21 personnel so that it forces Buffalo to run their base 43 defense, I'm not really afraid of that. I'm really not. Given their lack of targets going into this game, if they had all of their guys, oh yes, I am concerned. I am most dearly concerned about that matchup. But given the fact that they're missing a lot of their guys, they're missing Corey Davis, they're going to miss Adam Humphries. Adam Humphries is probably the biggest one in my opinion. I talked about that on the round table with Mario. We do that every single week, either Wednesday or Thursdays. You guys need to check that out. Excellent content on a weekly basis, just like you get on Saturday nights from us three. But anyways, as I was saying, I feel like running that against the Bills isn't really going to play in the Titans' favor, simply because if it's one thing that AJ Klein does well, it's defend the run. This guy's 260 pounds, and he's not meant to move backwards. That means he's going to attack the line of scrimmage. He's going to attack whatever his gap responsibility is, and he's going to make a play on the runner. That's really, I feel like, me specifically, I was way too hard on AJ Klein and his contributions last week as a drop back linebacker. That is not what he is good at. And I think that what he has put on display this season is absolutely evidence of that. But when he is moving forward, and he has to contribute in a run defending aspect, we're playing AJ Klein's strength at that point. So I'm not necessarily worried about AJ Klein playing the Will or Sam linebacker for the Bills defense if the Titans were to roll out 21 personnel to try and get mismatches, because I'm simply confident that the athleticism of Terrell Dodson and Tremaine Edmonds is made up in the aspect of the linebackers dropping back in coverage, and they really don't have the dogs in this one. Khalif Raymond, I am a tad concerned about that, but they just simply don't. I don't see it happening because they need to establish a rushing attack. And I felt like when watching the Raiders game last week, that's the one thing that Bills defense sold out to do. They sold out to stop the run, and they let Derek Carr pick them apart with 1,000 paper cuts, like Mario mentioned on last week's show. And I feel like that is the plan of attack going up against the Titans, because once you stop their running game, I really don't see Ryan Tannehill dropping back there, throwing 35 passes and being able to beat the Bills defense with all of his weapons, let alone with these practice squad guys he's going to be throwing to on Tuesday. So the plan of it, I find the Bills, I sell out to stop the run. I'm not worried about Klein contributing as a run defender, but I still have my reservations of him as dropping back in zone. I don't think that's ever getting better. I just don't.
Well, other than the Bama connection, do you see a lot of differences in Jacobs versus Henry? Do you see a lot of differences between those two guys?
Obviously, as a physical specimen and just as big as Derrick Henry is and as athletic as he is at that size, yes. But as an overall, their skill set as a runner, how they are with a football, as a running back, I see Jacobs as more elusive, but they're not completely at opposite ends of the spectrum. You're not comparing Derrick Henry to Christian McCaffrey in that regard.
Yes.
So you're definitely talking about two running backs who are fairly similar, but not identical.
I'll go for that.
Oh, because I'm sorry, I'm just replying to chat on the Facebook on the book. Anyway, what I'm saying is that if you're comparing Henry and you're trying to talk about game plans, and if you're sitting there and you're comparing, let's just say, it's a dumb comparison, but I'll put it out there anyway. If you're comparing Carr to Tannehill, if you're comparing any of the wide receivers that were playing against the Buffalo Bills last week to the wide receivers that are going to be playing this week, a couple guys that were working at UPS last week, now they're going to be starting in an NFL game. So if you want to do that, if you want to make that simplistic approach and make that comparison, you could say, listen, this is the defense that worked, but it still gave up 23 points last week. So what do you have in comparison to that? It's like, how many points do you think this Bills defense, being a little bit undermanned, what would happen?
I think in terms of weapons of what the Titans have in comparison to the Raiders, if we're going to do this, because this is actually a fun conversation because it opens up my next question for you. Do you think Ryan Tannehill is as efficient with the ball in his hands when having to make checkdowns as Derek Carr? Do you feel like this is a game where you could see Ryan Tannehill, if he drops back there 30-plus times a game, you're going to watch them use that passing game as an extension of their running game, so they're not directly using Derrick Henry, and Ryan Tannehill beats you by 1,000 paper cuts? Can you see that kind of happening?
I could, only because you could see him with his legs do that. His legs will do it where Carr's arm would do it. He would just do a check down here and there. And Tannehill's not immune to checking the ball down. He wouldn't care. They're looking to get 3-4 yards of pop and milk the clock. I firmly believe that that's what the approach that they're probably going to take. But he is more elusive than Carr. So on some of those situations where Carr will probably be looking to get a check down or throw it over the middle or hit a guy on a whip route or anything like that, Tannehill will probably try to do it with his legs, and he'll probably try to do it unsuccessfully. So I could see a similar type approach coming out of Tennessee that there was from Vegas, but I don't know if it could be as effective, especially with all those missing pieces.
Yep, you and I share the same line of thinking in that.
That's scary. Get out of there. Get out of there, Clayton.
Do we have any bold predictions? I think we could have a little fun with this one this week. We need something outlandish. And I feel like for some reason that's either going to come from me or Mookie, because Mario likes to play it safe because he just went through a table and he's old and he can't be doing that every week. So
hey, I'm 4 for 4. You guys can play as much as you want. I'm all right.
Mr. 4 for 4, you're up first. Since I took your bold prediction out of the round table, I'll give you first at bat on this one.
So do you want me to mention the bold prediction you stole from me?
Oh, yeah. I double bold down.
So 70 all-purpose yards from Derrick Henry, under 70 all-purpose yards from Derrick Henry is what Clayton mentioned on the roundtable on #sports, also on YouTube. And I was going to just go purely by 50 rushing yards. I was going to take the same thing I took against Jacobs, that they were going to hold him under 50 rushing yards, but they held him like 48 or whatever. But I went with the Tennessee Titans trying to shorten this game, with the Buffalo Bills hopefully getting out to a big lead, securing a victory early in this game, with the game being shortened. The Buffalo Bills, I think, are going to try to run the ball a little bit more. That being said, my bold prediction was that Josh Allen will throw for 2.25 in this game. He'll only throw for 2.25 in this game.
Okay.
So 225 yards out of the second leading passer in the NFL is the bold
why does
prediction.
That happen? How's that happen? Is it because what goes on?
I just think that the Buffalo Bills, I think they're going to want to try to put more of a run game on tape for some of the teams that they're going to play, just so it's not completely zeroed in on Josh Allen. I think that because of the success that he's had through the air, that the Tennessee Titans are going to try to limit some of the things that he's going to do as far as passing the ball, and the Buffalo Bills are going to use the run a little bit more. And also, I think that the Tennessee Titans with Henry, even though I have more confidence in Henry than I did in Jacobs last week, I think that this game is going to go by so fast and it's going to be so shortened that he's not going to have as many opportunities. The Buffalo Bills have been getting, 10, 12 drives a game. They may only have, 9 or 10. Maybe they've had 12 to 15 drives per game, but they might only have like 9 or 10 drives this game to put points up on the board. So I don't think that they're going to be on the field as much. So I think it's going to be limited for Josh Allen, and he's going to take advantage of the opportunities he's going to have, which they're not going to be many. He's not going to have many drives because the game's going to be shorter.
So he's saying it's going to be a defensive game.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory.
Galbraith comes in and says Josh will throw for 300 plus yards.
According to his bold prediction.
Yeah. I see a defensive touchdown for the Bills. I see a special teams touchdown for the Buffalo Bills, and I see them winning this game 35-3. But I don't think that Allen has amazing stats from that.
Tyler Bass can't kick an extra point, but you want a touchdown from the special teams.
Yes, because Tyler Bass doesn't need to return a kick for a touchdown.
He made that.
That's
tackle.
Andre Roberts.
He made that tackle. He definitely did.
Oh, I'm not saying he's going to do a peanut punch and return himself.
Hey, that could happen. That still counts, Mario. You'd still be
does.
right.
He still does. We got a lot of Josh throwing for 400. Josh was throwing for 300 in the YouTube chat. So
I got a bold prediction. I know my boy PJ watching. I'm not pissed. I'm not pissed about that. PJ, I wasn't pissed at all. All right, but how dare he say this bold prediction this way? Like, you trying to say that Josh? That's very fucking bold. Excuse me for the F-bomb, but that's pretty bold for you to say that Josh is going to go to Tennessee and throw for 225. 225, and they give up 262 a game. 262 a game. Who's checking Diggs? Diggs is leading the league in receiving yards. Who's checking him? Who's checking him? Adoree Jackson is on IR. So once again, who's checking Steph? That's my question on a week-to-week basis. Who in the hell is checking Steph Diggs? It's been nobody so far. And I don't think that nobody on Tennessee can check Steph Diggs. With that being said, my bold prediction, Josh Allen, a.k.a. Joshy Boucher, a.k.a. Young Hollywood, is going to throw once again for over 300. And he's going to have a Cam Newton moment. He's going to run for 100 too.
Wow, that's bold. That's bold. That's bold. I think what's even more bold is first you show up here with machete, and then you show up here blowing F-bombs. Mookie, you owe me push-up. Mookie, you owe me push-ups.
Hey, PJ, baby, I was pissed. Baby, I was pissed, man. I got the F-bomb.
Yeah, who would have thought? It's all good. It's all fun and games. My bold prediction, aside from Derrick Henry having less than 70 scrimmage yards, jeez, I'm going to say, Mookie, what do you feel the likelihood is that Zach Moss is active for this game?
Well, he's practicing, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. He's practicing. He's still listed as questionable. So I don't know. That's still 50-50, man. That's why I say Josh is going to run for the 100 this week because, they're gonna try to key on that. But one thing I can say that Tennessee has not faced a mobile quarterback this year yet. So that's where I think that they're not prepared for what Dable has as far as his QB play packages. So, maybe they get back in the swing of those things because you haven't seen a design play or run play for Josh in 2 weeks. You haven't seen that. So, I think they launched that a little bit and Josh get going due to the fact that it's still uncertainty with Zach Moss. Maybe I'll find out more tomorrow, but right now that thing's still 50-50. He's questionable, with that toe injury, and sometimes some things is a little nagging, and then the Bills, they don't care. With a running back, they make sure that you're completely healed. You see how they did Motor Singletary last year with that hamstring injury? Like, we were waiting for him to, to play, and they just really just had the training wheels on him all season. You know what I mean? So. Oh no! You got to switch that bold prediction up, guy. No, I
don't have to switch anything up. I'm just gonna rephrase it. That's all. I just rephrase it.
Okay, the bold predictions usually turn into bets on the show. Mookie. So if you say he's going to throw for over 300, and I say 2.25, nice little resting spot would be about 260. Oh, you said that they're giving up 262.
The median.
Okay, so I'll go with 255. I'll go with 255 being that. Let me write this down just so I don't forget.
This turn into the prices right, the yards right now.
Yes, this is we have to go. I mean, the cold front chats here on both Facebook and YouTube. Hopefully you guys are on both. But and make sure you smash that like button as well. 255 yards out of Allen. Over under. I'll take the under, you take the over. Let's go. What you I got to pick the stipulation of the bet last week. You pick it this week.
Well, since you went through a table, I don't want to put you through nothing like that again.
Oh my God!
I don't want to do. I don't want to do that.
My AARP card almost got revoked from that.
Right. You don't want your disability lawyers. Redoing their case because they see you in the.
They're so annoyed with me by now. Don't worry about it, Mookie.
What could we bet? We already got to do the chicken wing deal. So I don't know what I got.
How about this? if I win, you gotta go double or nothing. You can't just eat like 1 or 2 wings. You gotta eat like a full 10.
No, I'm gonna eat the full 10 on the first bet.
Okay, all right. Then you eat 20 of them. You eat 20.
Maybe we need to ask the chat group what they think.
We'll ask the chat.
The chat always has great ideas. Someone said we should have put Mario through a flaming table, and
right when they make you the stunt man.
They're crazy. They want it. No, what I was saying though is that if you win it this week, I will join you in the wing eating next week on the tailgate. I will join you in that bet.
Some company, I would like some company. I wouldn't mind some company. I can't eat some ranch all by my damn self.
10 wings, but suicidal. Oh my god! I'd rather go through another table.
Ranch, right? Because it's healthy.
You forget my age, 999. The 10 wings suicidal. I'll be in bed for a month.
Oh, trust me, I don't think anybody forgot about your age, old man.
Oh, okay, here we go.
One Chuck E. Cheese comment. Now we're going, Mario. You started
a goddamn deal, Mario.
Yes. Clayton's a little upset because when I introduced everyone on the round table, I have a nice little funny quip to say, and I said that Clayton got carded going into a Chuck E. Cheese. He's so young. But yeah, loser wears a Tom Brady shirt. I'm not even wasting money on that. Sorry, Lone Wolf, I can't do that. Wear something ridiculous for interviews.
Oh, that's Mario. I don't want to mess with Mookie's professional.
Mookie's a professional, so we can't. I mean, if I lose,
we gotta wear.
I don't know.
What do I gotta wear?
I'm afraid. I don't even know what I have in here. I'll wear a Halloween mask for the interview next week.
Stop. We're not trying to hide your identity out here, Mario. Come on.
I think I've wanted to for years. But, okay, you guys come up with something. You contact either Clayton at the Cold Front or you contact Mookie. You can find them on Facebook and Twitter.
They got to Monday at
Mario Star jersey. Oh, God. We miss Star, don't we? We do miss Star. We do miss him.
Who?
Star Lodalele.
Who that?
Oh, come on. Stop it.
My bold prediction. You didn't let me say it. You cut me off. You cut me off with your little bet.
Shotgun a beer? Is that legal on the tailgate?
I don't care. No, it's not legal. I'm just kidding. It's not legal. I can't say I don't care. I'm a professional too.
Speaking of tailgate, Mario, so run us through a play-by-play. You getting baptized to a table last week, like?
The unfortunate thing about the table was I made a bet. Paul and I we reached some numbers that we've never hit before on our live feed during one of our post games. I think we had about 240 people live, and it was actually a great thing. Hashtag Nation was flying through the chat. It was awesome. We were answering questions, and I think at the time we only had like 47 likes on the video. So I proposed a bet to the Hashtag Nation. I said, listen, if this gets to 150 likes, I'll let Paul put me through a table. And then there were other stipulations because after that, we said 175, he'd put me through a table wearing a Star Lotulelei jersey. And then at 200, I'd have to shotgun a White Claw prior to him putting me through the table with the Star jersey. So Hashtag Nation delivered. I could not welch on the bet. Paul grabbed me by the throat and threw me through the table. That completely disintegrated because I'm 250 pounds. And I got baptized through a table last week by Paul. It was Mario selling it. Hand dog comes in.
Guys, I promise you, I was trying to get this video in here before we get off screen. I'm trying to.
I'm ready for Halloween. Oh, God.
Can
I walk around with a bicycle pump?
Oh, that's okay. All right. That's making the most of a bad situation. I feel that.
Oh, my God.
But anyways, my bold prediction.
Okay.
Bills go over 275 total rushing yards in this game. I'm feeling what Mario's saying.
275. Wow.
275 total with just Josh Allen and Devin Singletary, maybe. So I'm probably going to be wrong on this one, but it's bold. It sounds bold for a reason. It's got to be bold. 275 total rushing yards for a rushing performance for the Bills offense this week. And the total of the game would be, it'd be high. It'd be pretty high, I'd imagine, but 275 for the Bills.
You got Madden type numbers coming into this game.
I've been playing a lot of Madden. I've been tearing it up, dude. Tearing it up.
Well, when you play on rookie.
Come play me, Mario. You don't even know how to spell Xbox.
No glitching. No glitching.
Hey, I've retired more kids playing that game than you know. Oh my God. So I got 35-3 as the final. Did you gentlemen go through your score predictions? I'm just curious.
No score predictions yet, but I kind of like that score though. I like that score.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm still going to say the Bills put up a 40 piece, man.
Nice.
41 to 22 Bills. I think the Bills, you know what they've been doing the past 4 games is just getting out to an early start. That don't change just because they're in Tennessee. I think the Bills going to, come out there, create the tempo, get up early, and force Tannehill to throw. Now, Tannehill might have a garbage 300 yards just due to the fact that, the Bills are forcing Tennessee to play their type of game instead of Tennessee forcing the Bills to play their type of game. So, the Bills was going to force them to play fast. So, they're not going to have enough firepower to do that. And the Bills win 41-22.
Okay.
41-22. Wow.
Okay.
Clayton, was it you that said on the game that there would be 30 other teams rooting for the Bills this week?
Oh, that was
great.
that
was great. It was great. But you talk about it before Clayton gets to the score prediction. I'm just talking about this has to be a statement by the Buffalo Bills, and not just for the Buffalo Bills itself. But you want to talk about league-wide, if you're taking the big picture into account here. If the Buffalo Bills dismantle the Tennessee Titans by like 30 points, like I got 35-3, Mookie's got 40, what did you say, 42-22, 45-22, 41-22. If they completely dismantle this team, it sends not only a message to the rest of the league about the Bills, it sends a message to the rest of the league about if you break rules that are set in place for this COVID-19, a 3-0 team can be completely dismantled for that. So don't mess around with this stuff. Make sure you adhere to the league guidelines here. So if the Buffalo Bills, that's a statement that's making more than the game itself. So I just wanted to add that little nugget in there. If the Buffalo Bills take care of business like they're supposed to, like the Buffalo Bills fans think they can, and how they're talented and how they're wired, if they blow this team out, it sends a message to all the other 30 teams not to mess with what's going on in this pandemic.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mario. I really couldn't. And I'm not going to lie, it's not like Bills fans didn't have enough reasons to hate the Tennessee Titans. But to be quite honest with you, I mean, I didn't watch that. I didn't experience that heartbreak at firsthand. So I've never really had a beef with the Tennessee Titans until this. And this, just the utter disrespect, the utter disregard for not just the NFL, but all the other teams in the league. Like, I can't believe it. I'm appalled. When those photos surfaced of them practicing at a high school, I was just thinking, yeah, let these dudes have it. I don't care if they take 10 first-round picks away. Let these dudes have it. Because I can't – I'm in utter disbelief. I don't want to see any team win a football game by forfeit. I don't. I believe it goes against every competitor's mindset. It does. I know both the men on this screen with me would say, no, I don't want to forfeit. I'd rather not play the game at all. But at the same time, I felt like it was applicable due to the punishment that the Titans deserve to have. They don't deserve to play football this week. This organization does not deserve to play football. They really don't. They wanted to play around with these protocols, play around with these procedures. Say what you will about COVID relief. Say what you will about the entire situation as a whole. Say what you will about masks. Bottom line, end of the day, the bosses of these guys' bosses. So the NFL had these procedures, these protocols in place for a reason and purpose to get through a 16-game season and then the playoffs. And these are the only guys that screwed it up. I'm not hearing these guys crying to the media that, there's misconceptions. Yeah, what have you? You guys didn't follow the rules. End of the day. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't do what is now part of your job. You look at teams like the Buffalo Bills who are handling this with the utmost professionalism. They don't whine and complain, mask this, mask that, armband this, armband that. They just do it. And they're 4-0. They're a successful, good football team with solid leadership in place. And that's just not the case at Tennessee. It just isn't. Mike Vrabel, he's a hell of a football coach, but I can't respect it anymore. I hope they get suspended for a year like it was reported. I hope they lose more than $10 million, and I hope they lose more than 2 first-round draft picks, and I hope I watch the Bills absolutely demolish and pick this team apart. I'm going back on my prediction simply because of how pissed off I am at this football team. I just am. Because think about it. Worst case scenario, this shuts down the entire league. None of us want that. Right. I have never watched football the way I have now because there was a pocket of time where none of us were sure if we were going to watch football this season. None of us. And I've watched more football in the last 5 weeks than I did in the last 2 years. It's simply because of the fact that I have a different appreciation for watching the game. And the Titans almost messed all that up at a professional level. So screw the Titans. I have the Bills winning 47-13. I don't want this one to be close. I hope the Bills are going for points in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left. I don't want to see the Titans have any kind of heartbeat in this game.
You just made all types of bold predictions, man. Gee.
I love when Clayton gets fired up. Clayton ain't playing. No, he is not.
He's pissed off, PJ. And that's one guy who's pissed off.
Hey.
Good thing he doesn't have a machete. Damn. He'd be taking out his mic right now.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Oh, for Tennessee. Man.
Are you suiting up, Clayton? Damn. Can you play Will linebacker?
I can play Indian everywhere, coach.
That's going to be the thing, too. Like, how many players are Tennessee actually going to suit up on Tuesday?
I don't know.
Who's playing special teams? Like some people that don't never play special teams, are they going to be designated to play special teams now? Like, you got to look at that too. Like, all that comes into factor, and then you got to keep that up for 4 quarters. So, and they haven't had any type of practice. Now, let the Bills mess around and this game be a dogfight with minimal amount of players. I got some questions the next day in the Zoom room for somebody, if that's the case.
I mean, I'd have questions.
I got some questions.
I don't want to see AJ Klein starting. I really don't.
But PJ mentioned as well. I mean, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that as well, that the long snapper's out. So that could be the special teams oof of the night.
That could be the special teams touchdown for the Bills' recovery.
That's right. It goes right over the punter's head. Yeah.
Guys, it's not the latest we've got, but it's getting late. There's no game tomorrow. It's going to be a long 3 days. I got a whole 2 work days before I get to watch the Bills play. It's not the same on a weekend anymore. So from here and then, guys, Mario, please tell the people where they can find you, what to do when they find you, and the days that they can find yours and Paul's content.
Absolutely. Paul and I will be filming some episodes this week because there's no game on Sunday. Usually we have the post game. We're going to be having the post game right following the game on Tuesday. Usually you can find our post games around 5 or 6 o'clock when they play the 1 o'clock games. We also have a halftime report that we're going over on the game day, as well as we have the Wednesday night or Thursday night roundtable. It varies based on who we have for it, but it's Joe from Believers Talk. It's Clayton. It's Dan Mitchell. And this past week, a couple days ago, we had Greg from Cover One, Greg Thompson. So it was a great, fun show. We break down the previous game, we talk about the current game, and then we, similar to this, we have some bold predictions and score predictions for you. So I always love coming here on the tailgate to annoy Mookie and rile up Clayton. So it's actually this has been a nice treat, guys, and I'm glad I keep getting asked back. I don't know why they haven't booted me yet. It's kind of funny,
Well, we always can find you too on top of a table somewhere now that you've been baptized. So,
Hey, that was young. I was young. I needed the money. Okay. Oh no, the table. I think I said Paul. My bad. Whoops. That just escalated quickly.
Guy, but on Saturday night, anything is bound to happen, right? So,
Mookie, what's happening this week? Where can the people find you? What do you got going on?
I'm going to try to stay far away from tables, okay? I'll be probably sitting on a few countertops, those a little bit more sturdier, you know what I mean? They don't break, they don't give too easy. But you can check me out, man, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Waffle Sports. You know, my show is on Power 96.5, 6 o'clock every Sunday from 6 to 7. And just be on the lookout for a lot of projects that we got coming up, man. You know, so just to stay tuned to Bill's World coming at you.
Hey, I always appreciate working with these two gentlemen on a weekly basis. And hey, it's only week 5. We get to do this probably like 15 more times by the time the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I don't know if Mookie's going to be able to join me that week, but Mario will be on for sure.
That Super Bowl week going to be.
I could join you from Tampa. It's not a problem.
You ain't going to be the only one down there, Mookie. You ain't going to be the only one down there.
All right, we might have to go on the bubble for that one.
You'll be working now, so don't worry about that.
Oh gosh, but guys, be sure to follow the Cold Front Report on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook. That's at Cold Front Report on Twitter, Cold Front Report _ Bills News on Instagram, and Cold Front Report : Buffalo Bills News on Facebook. And if you'd like to find me on Twitter, it's at CFR Clayton, and it's the same exact handle on Instagram. You'll find plenty of content regarding the podcast that I have, the Overtime Podcast with Jeff Uvino. That airs live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. It's going to be a little different this week, obviously, considering the Bills have a game at 7 p.m. But, hey, that's what we have down the pipe. And to close this show out, I don't think there's any better way I could do it other than showing the man on our screen getting put through a table.
He has
this is how we're going to part tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you all for your time. And, hey, I hope you all have a safe weekend and enjoy a Sunday free without the Bills, and you can mow your lawn and do whatever extracurricular activity you have to do. But here is Paul Wineski putting Mario Granata through a table. Good night, folks.
Do you notice that? Do you notice that right there? The leg just kicked up